They're just a giant, decaying, happy puppy. That's what they are.
Hello everyone and welcome to BearTalks as we are joined by Barely Tactical.
Hello.
Today we're going to be taking a look at meta in gaming, in particular for Total War. But as we always do on this show, Barely Tactical, what was your introduction to strategy gaming?
My introduction would have been Civilization 2 on the PlayStation 1. I would have only been about... Yeah, it got released on the PS1. I would have only been about 8 years old, roughly. And had no clue what I was doing, but it seemed cool. And I just kept playing it over and over. And I remember one day, because it teaches you all about the different religions and things like that, I come out with something about religious fanaticism. And my mum was like, wait, what? Where have you got that from? I was like, from this game. And she was like, a game's taught you that. Okay, that's not a bad thing.
Oh, okay, that's good. Yeah. So your parents actually were quite happy with it.
Yeah, they were like, okay, this is great. You're learning something. We're not going to stop you from playing that. And it kind of went on from there. I went into like Command and Conquer, and it was because I didn't have a PC until considerably later on. It was generally only strategy games that I could get on console that I would dive into. Or Age of Empires when I was in school and they had it installed on the school computers for some reason. And that meant every IT lesson I just sat there playing Age of Empires instead of listening to the teacher. So that probably wasn't the smartest move.
I mean, to be fair, we didn't have Age of Empires installed, but we were still sat playing Flash games the whole time. Wouldn't worry, makes no difference.
Mini clip.
Yes, mini clip. was Albino Black Sheep was what we used to go on.
Yeah, there was loads on there, and then half the time they'd be bogged down with viruses. And
oh yeah, it's school computers though.
Yeah. On my computer, I don't care.
Well, no, I am slightly intrigued that you're saying you started off on the PlayStation. How did you find it moving from PlayStation strategy into PC strategy?
It was very interesting. It was quite difficult because obviously I was one of the rare few people who had been used to using a controller, used to the UI looking different because it had been repurposed for a console. So it was quite difficult getting to grips with using keyboard and mouse and seeing these games look a bit different and me going, hang on, but this menu isn't over there. It should be there. But I found sort of with time, I came to appreciate PC versions more because they just ran a lot more, well, fluidly. It was just a lot more simple to play. It wasn't as fiddly. Even now, when you get some strategy games that are ported over, they're done okay, but they're still quite finicky, and it's quite difficult to sit there and play it as well as you would like to because of the limitations of the controller and such.
Definitely. I think turn-based strategy gets a little bit more leeway, but with RTS, it is insanely hard. I remember playing Warcraft back on the PlayStation. That was impossible. Yeah, it's RTS. I mean, Command and Conquer was quite difficult, but I think they managed to port it quite well. Plus, I never really, at that point, it wasn't really multiplayer because, of course, it was PlayStation 1 and you didn't have multiplayer on PlayStation 1 unless it was someone sitting next to you. So, like, you only had to worry about how difficult the AI was. But that's probably the only RTS that I've played on a console that I think worked very well. The rest of them is kind of very painful. It's kind of like pulling teeth a lot of the time when you want to do the most simple thing in it. Yeah, PlayStation strategy, mate.
Yeah, it's weird. A lot of people do it. They're like, wait, Civ was on the PlayStation? Like, yeah, Civ 2 was. I remember the Gandhi going full nuclear ages ago.
I do like how they actually turned that into a full-blown part of the game. Like,
Yes, I
yeah,
like that. Rather than sit there and fix them, actually, let's have a bit of a joke with this. People clearly find it funny. We might as well run with it.
I do think though that slowly his face should morph into Darth Vader. Like, I don't know why. I just feel that would fit so perfectly.
It reaches a certain point in the game, and then
Yeah.
Gandhi just appears as Vader. That would be brilliant.
Well, I'm sorry. Where were we? So yes, you started off your strategy gaming career back on the PlayStation. Did you ever begin to use like metagaming? Did you ever look it up? Ever start learning about it?
I generally got told by others. I've never really been a fan of being told how to play a game exactly. So when someone would sit there and be like, no, you should be using this class, and no, bugger off. I'll play what I want. I paid for the damn game, you didn't.
That's definitely one way to put it.
I've never really been one to look into it too heavily. I've had people tell me about it, and they'll tell me, oh, this is quite funny actually. If you use like X amount of these units, it'll wipe people out in seconds. And I'll give it a go, have a laugh at it, and then go, yeah, that's it though. I'm not doing that again because I'll find that boring. And it's pretty much my experience of looking into metagaming. I'm not a big fan of it. I have nothing against it, and people who like playing it, it's not my cup of tea. It doesn't suit my play style at all.
I am a little curious there as well, because of course you're doing Twitch streams, you're doing well, you've got lots of people watching. Do you find that you get a lot of people sort of pointing you towards metagaming?
They try to, but I think I'm quite lucky in the community I've started building up generally doesn't like metagaming either. They recognize it and they see the uses of it, but at the same time, they'd rather not. They'd rather just sit there and have an army that's got silly units in it because they think they look cool, or because they want an army of dwarves that only have flamethrowers. Because why not? That it's in the game, you might as well use it. So I've had it a couple of times where people have criticized, going, "Oh, well, why aren't you, doing the Skaven cheese and everything?" And I just say it's not for me. If you like doing that, that's fine. Off you go. But I'm not going to do it. I don't like it. Sorry. It's as simple as that.
It's definitely fair enough. I mean, I will say for me, I'm actually fully in agreement of the idea that it kind of removes that fun. It removes the enjoyment of playing a game when you know if you build X amount of units, you will win. At that point, why play?
Yeah, why bother? You might as well watch someone else play the game. Realistically, if you're following someone else's footsteps of, oh yeah, look, this is your army, you go and sack X settlement, 5 times, then you go back, do this, and then you've got, Skaven Blight up to tier 5 or whatever instantly. You might as well just watch someone do it rather than play it yourself. You're not exploring the game to its fullest, in my opinion.
I am kind of perplexed by that one. So you're saying you're not exploring the game to its fullest, but is not metagaming using the game to its fullest extent?
I think it's more a case of exploiting the game to beat it. You're finding the quickest route, so you're playing the game in the most efficient way, rather than playing it to its fullest. So messing around with all the different units, seeing what happens if you only have one city, or you only take one continent and you just defend that continent or something. With meta, you are taking the most direct route to get a victory, which is fine. That's absolutely fine. But then you're ignoring a good sort of 80% of the game that's there, realistically. You'll use probably 5 units out of your roster of 20 to 30 units. You'll skip lords that normally you might look at and go, well, actually that sounds quite cool, he might be of use, and someone will say no, don't do them because they don't buff your economy. You want only these lords and they sit on your capital or whatever. And so then you start almost tunnel visioning the game.
Yeah,
and you
you're
miss
playing into
everything
a
around
script. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not a bad way of playing the game if you like doing that. That's absolutely fine. But it's just I think you miss an awful lot of what's been put in, and a lot of the time I find metagaming is only realistically useful because on higher difficulties in the game, the AI is just essentially just given buffs. The AI hasn't got any smarter as such. You're still playing against the same tactics, just the units are a lot more stronger than what yours are because it's gone, you're on legendary, so they're 3 times your strength and can pull
they
20 troops out of nowhere.
Mince everything in 10 seconds.
Yeah.
We'll say then, so when you're starting off a game, if you're going into that exploration, kind of what do you feel like leads you into checking those different units out, or trying out, as you said, like having one region and seeing what you can do with it?
For me, it's just general curiosity. I'm very, very indecisive by nature, so I like sitting there and comparing everything in front of me. So like, dwarves, for example, I'll sit there when I've got an army and I'll go, okay, I know what units are strong and what are going to be useful, so I'll put them in. But then also, these look quite cool, like the gyrocopters or something, and someone will go, they're rubbish. It's like, yeah, but it's a helicopter that drops fire barrels on people. It's cool. I'm going to use it. I don't care if it's useful or not. It looks cool, and I find it interesting. I think as well, a lot of the time it depends on the game. If you were to have some sort of historical focus on a game and you wanted to try and do it almost like a role play style, so that you wanted to try and reenact the footsteps of whoever it is you're playing as would have done at that period, so you'd try and outfit your armies in a similar way. You would go on conquest to try and reach certain battles that happened in history and things like that. It's I think, that's probably like the main 2 things that generally like push me down the route of exploring all the different units and the different play styles. Because otherwise I'd get bored, if I'm honest. If I was just doing the same thing over and over, just with a different faction and slightly different units, I'd get bored, to be totally honest.
No, that is 100% fair, and I'm kind of ashamed to say this, but actually with playing Shogun 2, I've been playing quite a bit of it, just trying to complete every faction. I had to take a break, because it is the same faction, just with slight buffs.
It is. Yeah, that's like you just get 1 or 2 units that are slightly different and slightly stronger, and it does become a bit of a slog after a while, because like, okay, no, I know it's essentially these guys are going to start off strong, these guys are going to go and steamroll someone, they'll probably die, and you can start predicting what's going to happen. And it does become a bit of a chore, so having some variety in it is really nice.
I'm curious. I'm always curious. Well, when you're saying that it's kind of, you like this exploration, what do you feel that kind of meta has denied players, if you will, then?
I think a lot of what it's denied is just exploring the work that's gone into a lot of these games, where there's an awful lot of units in games where they're just designed very well, they look pretty, they've got brilliant voice acting or something, and they're just kind of overlooked because it's not as good as this unit. It doesn't matter, it's trash, don't look at that. If you use that, you're trash. And I think that's kind of another thing that metagaming has kind of brought in. It can make games really damn toxic, because people want to be the best all the bloody time, and they're so damn aggressive about it.
100%.
Yeah, and it's I feel like it does almost start to drain the element of fun out a little and just turn it more competitive, which is fine, in an esports environment where
I
you're
was
in a
gonna say,
tournament.
this is a single player game for the most part.
Yeah, like if you are playing in a tournament, I understand the concept of okay, meta's going to work because you want to win the tournament, obviously. But if you're just playing a campaign for the fun of it, well, what's the point in having someone sit there and tell you, well, you obviously you're very bad at the game. You're not playing on legendary. You don't have 60,000 rattling gunners, and you've not got every single capital on the map to the max level within 10 turns. And
Basically, you're not Legend of Total War.
Yeah,
that is literally what I just heard. Yeah, because
that's essentially
I've got to say, I've done I think I've done 3 videos now on gaming difficulty, and what I've found is that most people don't play on higher difficulties. The highest seems to be sort of hard, very hard at a push, but it'll be like very hard campaign, hard battle.
Yes, I've done a couple on very hard with the battles on hard, and that's purely because I thought, sod it, I want to get an achievement, and that was it. And then I'm like, nope, difficulty back down again. I don't care, and I'll just roll through and play what I want.
What was the achievement?
Beastmen, and that was after the DLC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was like, I want the Beastman achievement for doing it on very hard or legendary. And now it's easier to do.
That I find hilarious. The fact that they have very hard or legendary is just like, well, you've just proven legendary is pointless.
Yeah, it's
like, there's no bragging in it at all.
No, there's not a separate set of trophies just for legendary. It's literally, it's bundled in. I think normal and hard are bundled, and I think easy is its own thing. I might be wrong.
I can't say for the new ones. It did used to be easy, normal, hard, and then very hard legendary. But
yeah.
If memory serves, in some of the old ones, if you completed it on a higher difficulty, you didn't get the achievement for like all the lower difficulties.
You had to go back and do it again on the lower difficulty.
I'm pretty sure, because I remember doing this on Shogun 2, because originally it was on my dad's profile, and I went and bought it for my own sort of thing when it went on sale. And I was very annoyed because it came out for free not too long after.
Love when that happened.
Oh, it sucked. But I swear I did it on Legendary, and I was just like, wait, what? I haven't done this on Easy? Like, what? Okay, let's go back.
It on Legendary? I've got to do it again.
Going back to something you brought in, though, when you were saying about kind of this community toxicity, aggressiveness coming through, I will say a lot of the old Total War forums I used to read, and they were way more interesting. Because you'd have, as you were saying, like, this unit has a really cool voice actor, and then people talking about whatever games the voice actor's been in, and you'd have like, oh, has anyone seen this detail or this Easter egg in this unit model?
Yeah.
And nowadays it is just as you said, which unit's best? Who cares?
Yeah. What faction can win the campaign the fastest? And it's just like, well, I'm not being funny. You've just spent £30 or however much in the local currency in that game, and you're gonna sit there and try and blast through it as quick as you can. To me, I don't know if it's because I'm a parent, so I'm kind of things are more valuable. It's kind of like, if I can get the maximum play time out of something, I'm gonna bloody well do it. Like,
no, I'm actually totally with you. Like, even not a parent, just for the record, but yeah, just so my girlfriend doesn't have a go at me. But but basically, yeah, if I'm getting a Total War game, it's the one franchise I know I can buy that game pre-purchase, and I'm gonna get my money's worth.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. If you've completed a few campaigns, you do kind of feel like, okay, now it's time for a challenge. Let's see, I'm going to play as the Bandit Queen in Three Kingdoms, just because it's ludicrously hard, and then you never play it again because it's a terrible campaign. but
Yeah.
you still end up trying to find those challenges. And for me, that's when the meta starts to become useful. When you're trying to do something that is
Yeah.
ludicrously hard, and you kind of need that bonus, that buff to get you past, as you said, the buffs of the enemy.
Yeah, that's when it becomes much more useful, and that's when it is needed to some extent, because obviously, yeah, if you have no idea of the meta, and you're trying to field an army that doesn't make much sense against an army that's, because the AI is being buffed up, it's going to be really strong, you're just going to end up getting slaughtered every time. So you then start learning to counteract it.
It's kind of a weird one, because I don't even know that many. Once more, I did a video on gaming difficulty and challenges. Not that many people kind of responded with the challenges they do, what they try, because it was all about this is Total War. And it really doesn't seem like many people are doing that. It kind of almost feels like it's only YouTubers.
Yeah, YouTubers and streamers are a very big source of it, and sort of the communities around them as well, I find. And the problem is like I said, then you start getting people being toxic, because it just becomes a big, well, I did it this quickly with only this, and yeah, it just becomes a bit tiring. I think I can probably count on one hand how many communities I've come across who do focus on the meta, and actually they've just been very friendly and helpful with it, rather than belittling other people because they're not playing it, to Legend of Total War standard, and it's kind of, it can become very grating.
I tell you something I don't understand. I actually think Legend of Total War is a great example of this. He himself says he won't do certain things because he doesn't enjoy them. It just feels like the message gets all mixed up, because the whole thing is, if you want to play meta, props to you. When you're done, tell me what was worked. Like, what was a good unit? What was good in this situation? Because if I find myself on the back foot, that could be pretty usable.
Yeah.
I don't have to demand everyone plays that way as well. It's a sandbox.
No, it's kind of, yeah, well, I suppose it's our culture now. It happens in so many damn different things, and things like the internet and that make it so much easier to sit there and, spread an idea and go, oh, well, everyone should be doing it this way because so-and-so does it.
Do you remember back in the day when you'd go in, like, I'm saying back in the day, do you remember back before a certain outbreak where you'd go into like a Games Workshop and there was always one person in there who demanded you played a certain army in a certain way?
Yeah, I remember I was talking to a guy in a Games Workshop, and he said when he first started, he was into the Space Marines, and he was like, typical kid, big Space Marines, big guns, blowing up monsters and stuff.
Oh, heck yeah, heavy bolters for the win.
Yeah, and he's like, so of course, he goes, I started painting a miniature. He goes, I started doing it in the store, and I was painting it pink. He goes, because I thought it looked cool, and he goes, and this big geezer's come over and said, you can't paint them pink, they're Space Marines. They can't be that. And he said what he did, he then went and bought some, took them home, painted the entire army pink, took it back to the store, played a game with the guy, and beat him with them.
Perfect. That is perfect. I wish I had that kind of money, that in-your-face money. I'm gonna buy Games Workshop just for this.
Yeah, screw you with what you're telling me to do. But it's the typical popularity thing of just, oh, well, look, so-and-so's done this, so you should do this too. And it's like, well, no. It doesn't make sense to me.
Perfectly fair enough. Well, we have mentioned this, that it's a single-player game, and of course, looking at other strategy games that are single-player, Civ being a great example, why do you kind of feel that this is almost developed online to such an extent that if you go on Reddit and say, I think this faction's terrible, you can basically, I'd just say just walk away from that thread, just throw it on and run, basically be a troll.
Yeah.
How do you feel that the gaming sphere has evolved to this point?
I think it's just where gaming has become much more popular and much more lucrative. since we've started to see games coming up, things like PUBG and Fortnite and, you know, Dota, League of Legends, you know, games that are primarily focused on being competitive. That kind of attitude, it stays within that little group for a little while, and then it'll start trickling down, and it starts filtering through to different groups, and then eventually it'll reach, you know, single player games. You have it like Dark Souls and stuff like that, where it's, at first it was just a big meme of how ridiculously difficult it was, and then it became a thing of, well, actually, no, you can, the game's easy, it's not actually that hard if you know what you're doing. And it all kind of, it evolves almost. So I think, I personally think a lot of it stems from the competitive side of gaming, and it has just spread because as games have become more and more popular, people have wanted to experience and play them with their friends more. So online multiplayer has become a bigger thing, like in Civ and Total War, where you can have a match online against one of your friends, and then eventually it'll go into, you know, you get a group of friends together who go, oh, I know, we'll have a tournament between us and we'll have a laugh. And it just, like I said, it keeps evolving from that point to where almost every genre of game out there now has a competitive scene to it.
I was actually going to ask, is Total War, is it that competitive? I really don't engage with the multiplayer scene. I very little about it.
There are tournaments, mostly around the historic titles. It's not so much on the Warhammer side. There doesn't seem to be as many. Rome 2 is a very, very big one for tournaments.
Really?
Yes. Rome 2 is still hugely popular. It's probably one of the most played out of the historic titles, I'd say. Until
sorry, you're blowing my mind a little bit here.
Yeah, I thought that as well. Yeah, it's a big nostalgia thing. A lot of people still rate it as one of the best ones made, which is fine. To be wrong, it's okay.
just checking. That's Rome 2.
Yes,
the one that was released surprised. To some of the worst bugs to have ever played a Total War game.
Yep. And it's still the most, you will find the most tournaments in Rome 2. Attila doesn't really have many. Attila has a very small but fiercely protective fan base. Empire is kind of the Marmite of Total War, where some people adore Empire, other people absolutely despise it because they didn't do the gunpowder system very well in it. Shogun is kind of the exception to the rule, where generally everyone seems to like it, but no one really plays that much of it anymore.
I was gonna say Shogun 2. This is I thought some of the servers had shut down, to be honest. Like, I thought the avatar system was gone.
Yeah, it's still alive. Some people do still play it, but it's not as popular as Rome 2. Rome 2 is the big boy of the historic titles, realistically.
And not a single mention of Napoleon. The best one there is.
I find very few people mention Napoleon, if I'm honest. It's the one that's
such a good game.
Normally last on people's lists.
It's blasphemy. How bloody dare they? Oh, mate, no, so, I mean, to be fair, I came in, what would it have been? I came into Napoleon and didn't get Empire until, I think I got it after Shogun 2, I can never quite remember.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that had a lot to do with it, but even then, like, playing them, I just found Empire was a little too broken.
Yeah, it just, when you had the Fall of the Samurai DLC come out for Shogun 2, and it was just, gunpowder worked so much better than it did in Empire.
And the ships.
And I think that was instantly what just put the nail in the coffin for Empire for a lot of people, because it was like, well, this can do it perfectly. this, which is that, this game is meant to be, one of the biggest focuses. It's supposed to be naval combat, gunpowder, and you haven't done it properly.
Mhm.
So it's kind of, I think that did kill it for an awful lot of people.
I've got to say, Empire naval combat was the biggest misstep I think I've ever seen from a Total War game. Because, like,
Yeah.
the theory is there. I understand where it came from and how it maneuvered and how things were supposed to work, but it just feels like they never tested it. Or, like, when I say tested it, I mean, like, sat down with someone who actually, not even old ones, just how a boat moves. Because it's just an arcade game. You're flip-flopping, you're, throwing one side, knocking the sails, throwing the other, knocking the mast. Done. You win. Whereas at least with Napoleon, it's so slow. And it's methodical. And you zoom in, because you can't do anything. It takes forever to move. So you just watch as your ship is just stripped and the soldiers are flying. And I shouldn't be admiring this, but that was some beautiful dedication to animation.
Yeah, that's definitely something that is one of Napoleon's strong points, because there was just a lot of thought was put into the naval combat and into combat in general in that game. I think Napoleon was probably, it was probably one of the turning points for the Total War franchise, where they suddenly started putting an awful lot more thought into the aesthetics of the battles and how everything and the reaction to the battles as well. It wasn't just, you run up, your samurai runs in and, attacks someone, their head goes flying off. And it's like, well, no, that's not really how it would have happened. But I think Napoleon was the big turning point with that, because after that, everything did become a lot more aesthetically pleasing in the Total War games, which was really nice.
Well, that's a very good point, because Empire is where they brought in the what's it called, the dual fighting or mocap fighting system, where it singled units out, and it kind of went a bit overkill as it got on and on, to the point where in Shogun 2 I think it had like a bit of a balance, but then Rome 2 was just like you've now just literally got duels, like it's no longer armies fighting. What sort of effect has that had on the competitive scene?
I think a lot of the time things like that get modded out in the competitive scene. I know
modding.
Like Company of Heroes 2, generally speaking, a lot of the tournaments in Company of Heroes, they will run mods and say, so there will be certain units are removed, certain actions are removed, because it just doesn't make sense gameplay wise. It's, you can't have, a hero tank running in and blowing everyone up and going, ha, you can't kill me, I've just got this.
So it's kind of like a balancing issue then.
Yes, so basically you'll find a lot of tournaments and like the competitive scene will try and auto balance themselves if the dev isn't doing it anyway. I think another side to it is where we do have a lot more accessibility to tell devs what's wrong with the game now. Things like that aren't as prevalent, because they get so many reports back of going, look, this unit's broken, I can run him in, kill half the army, and he's only lost a quarter of his life. And they'll patch it and they'll fix it and try and balance things out as best as they can. So I think it's we're kind of lucky in a sense that a lot of the time these sort of instances don't happen too frequently in more modern games. But older ones generally would be modded to try and remove anything that's sort of unbalanced.
Interesting. So it's kind of to bring this back to this idea of meta, but it's kind of like enforced meta.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's almost meta within meta. So it's kind of like you have like the general rule of it, and then you'll have, well, actually no, but if you want to be, the super competitive going into tournaments, well, you're going to need to run these mods. So then you know what to expect. You're going to have to change your playstyle a little bit. I don't think it generally affects playstyles massively, because it will literally just remove a couple of units
Mm-hmm.
from the game because they're just stupid, and you probably wouldn't use them anyway because they probably don't fit into the meta, but it just prevents people from doing it.
Yeah, just give a blanket ban.
Yeah.
As I said, I'm not big into really any computer game these days for any form of competitive play, but in card games, yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh, forbidden card lists, restricted, all that lot, yeah.
Yeah, very sort of like, I think Magic has similar things, doesn't it? I believe. I've never played Magic, but I'm sure I've heard of people
They
saying
do
that.
have listings that you have to build your decks around, but Magic moves so quickly and it's so expensive because of it. I just could never get into it. I mean,
I like the artwork on them.
Oh, the artwork's amazing. The cards are the details fantastic. I've still got my decks. It's just it was a little too, the competitive scene's a bit out there for me.
Yeah.
That's always like this competitive idea. When we're looking at single player stuff, and in particular Total War, how do you feel it's affecting the development of the game? Because if we're having this interaction, we have players saying, oh, this unit's overpowered, this unit's kind of, a bit weak in some cases as well. How do you feel the developer reacting is actually changing, I don't really want to call it the meta, but the actual base game to reflect the state of meta in gaming?
I think it's kind of, it's a double-edged sword because it improves the games, generally speaking, because if there is something that just doesn't work, they'll give feedback and say, well, no, I don't use that unit because it's rubbish. I've tried it in X amount of scenarios and it just doesn't work, and so it'll get a buff, and then they'll debuff other units that people say, oh well, these are ridiculously strong. I can field an entire army of them and just delete the enemy. And I think that's good because obviously it levels the playing field out for anyone who wants to actually play it non-meta wise as well, because it suddenly makes the units that maybe would get overlooked a lot more viable because they'd suddenly get a bit of a buff and they'd be a lot more effective in the game. But I think at the same time, I think a lot of it can kind of, because it is a very big, they're generally like a big voice, compared to those who are just happy, playing the game and just running it on whatever. I think it drowns out some of the other quality of life issues because they're not seen as important. They're not seen as affecting, the meta or how they want to play the game. And I think that can cause problems in itself. You'll find that almost entire factions will just get forgotten because devs just get bombarded with, well, what about this faction? What they were really good the last patch, and now they're terrible. Why have you done that? So then they have to go back, think over that one, and their initial plans of, well, maybe we'd buff up the vampires. Maybe we'd fix them. And then it's put on the back burner. No, it's just right. They're not as important. They weren't, base game or whatever. And I think, it can draw devs' attention away from the broader aspect of what needs to be fixed in the game, just to make the game more enjoyable for everyone, realistically.
I've got to ask, because you're a little more connected to the whole dev side of things. Obviously talking with them about sponsored streams and all that such. Do you ever hear any of this sort of thing, like, floating around?
I've seen it, I've seen it quite a lot. Obviously I'm in a few Discords and things with different developers. I'm in one for Creative Assembly, one for Amplitude, Paradox, and I find certain games are worse for it than others. Total War is one where it's very iffy. You get, like I say, you have certain games have really, really passionate people in them, and then others are just kind of yeah, whatever. It's an old game. We don't care anymore, and they just ignore it like Napoleon.
Okay.
You know, yeah. But I do see it quite often where it will be the dev will have an area set up for, you know, thoughts and bugs, basically, and it'll just get absolutely filled with, you know, oh, well, this unit doesn't work very well. Why is that? You know, this unit needs buffing, this one needs debuffing. I was running this campaign and I couldn't beat them with this army, so this needs buffing. And it just, yeah, you find it's a very big problem, because I feel sorry for the devs to some extent, because they're just opening themselves up to people who are just going to bombard them. I mean, to the point of we've had in Creative Assembly, one of the guys who's actually working on the battles for sieges for Warhammer 3 offered to open up his DMs to people in the creator Discord for their feedback and like their suggestions on how to
that's
improve.
a risky move.
And instantly several of us were like, look, you're going to regret that. Do not do it. Step away from it. It's a noble idea, but that's a power you shouldn't be giving people.
I mean, I would say if they really wanted to do that, make a separate one. You know, just make
a totally anonymous account. Yes.
Yeah, just make a separate account and just let people fill that up with hate, and you can sift through it every now and then.
Yeah, you can call it the self-hate account. Whenever you're feeling that bit too happy, you can level yourself out by looking at your DM.
Cure for happiness. Cracking movie, that actually.
Yeah.
Come on, no, that's actually really interesting to hear. Yeah, I mean, I know that these Discord groups exist, obviously, so it's an easy way to contact creators and such.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was actually where they were getting some of that feedback. I kind of assumed that they would move that elsewhere.
No, a lot of them. I remember Stellaris is the best example of it. When they had the latest DLC coming out, they were showing it off on their channel, and
Leviathan?
someone was, I think it was, yeah. And someone was complaining about the amount of bugs at release, and, you know, why doesn't QA pick this up? And the person sat there and said, well, I'll put this into perspective. He's like, what you guys on release will play in the space of a month of this game, and the amount of bugs you will report would take QA a year.
Yes.
To hit that amount. He's like, that's how intense people play it and how much you will find. So that's why every game will launch with a multitude of bugs, because no one has that kind of manpower to test a game out. Like, it's just not possible. Like, you'd be employing thousands upon thousands of people. And
I
so
do feel... So I've got to say, I've got to speak for the consumer gamer in me. That's shifting the job that should be paid as a tester to free use consumers. Like, and we're paying full price on release, or we could just wait and get it on sale.
I think the way they kind of shift it a little bit as well is that's when they use content creators, and they give content creators, depending on the size of the creator. Some people might have a game as early as like a month early, and they'll be looking at early builds, and they'll be giving their feedback the whole way through. I mean, Humankind was quite a big example of it, where they used the open dev. I mean, I tested it even before open dev, and was giving feedback for almost a year before the game was hitting anywhere. And there were several creators doing the same thing of all different sizes. And so I think that's a way that they are shifting part of the QA into another audience. I think as well, because
Actually, that makes sense to me because as you were saying, that they play a little differently, but also that's kind of a business contract. You know, you're getting it early, you're enjoying the exposure yourself, and they're enjoying pre-testing and exposure. I feel in their favor a little, but still, it's an agreement.
Yeah.
As opposed to it's poor old consumer paying, I mean, you're saying 30 odd pounds British, I'm paying 70, 80 bucks Australian. Like, this is a lot of money.
Yeah. It's it can be quite bad, especially some games where they're absolutely riddled, and it's like, how have you missed that many though?
Should we just not mention Cyberpunk? Apparently that's running pretty well now.
Yeah. I think mods. I think people too many developers now are taking the Bethesda route of going, release the game, doesn't matter, the community will fix it for you. It doesn't matter, let them do it. Does the game load? Yep, then it works. It's fine.
A bit extreme, but not far off.
Yeah. Someone will fix it beyond that point, and it'll become the best thing ever with mods. You'll be fine. Don't worry about it.
Oh, no, I am actually really intrigued by something. This is something I'd never really thought of. But when you and your group, so you're all on a Discord, I imagine you're kind of all in contact with each other on these Discords. Do you find that there's a meta that develops, like, between you?
Yeah, you find it almost becomes like a playground where you have the cool kids who won't talk to anyone unless they're playing the meta. And, you know, because they don't know what they're talking about, and it's, whatever. And it's what I spend most of my time actually just being in contact with the devs rather than a lot of other content creators, because I don't have the social skills to deal with that. Not in a polite way, if I'm honest.
Yeah, it's fair enough. Well, so
I speak my mind too freely.
Surely that's what every content creator does. Maybe I missed something there. Might be why no one follows me.
Yeah, it depends on the person that you talk to. A lot of them don't, unfortunately. It would be nice if they just did, but...
Oh, no, I am intrigued. This is something that is so specific to Total War for me. Obviously, I'm not getting anything that early, but I am playing Total Wars when they first come out. I'm learning them, I'm getting used to them, and I've never been into like looking up what's good, what's bad, not until like ages after.
Yeah.
But I still sort of develop a sense of, what unit's good within the campaigns I've played. And then coming back to a game, so doing Total Challenge, I've gone back and played Rome 2, for example, and was sort of, oh wait, politics, that's a thing. Oh wait, suddenly certain units were a little, working a little bit differently to how they were before, and essentially having to relearn a game.
Yeah.
Do you ever find a bit of a struggle with all the updates and changes that come along in modern gaming?
Yeah, I do sometimes. I think the biggest example is Warhammer, where the dwarves, for the longest period of time, were one of the most solid campaigns you could play in Total War Warhammer 2. They were incredibly strong. The campaign was very straightforward, so if you were new to it, you could pick the dwarves and have a relatively easy time learning the game. And then all of a sudden, because the orcs, as much as I love them, they were absolutely terrible. They got their much needed overhaul and buff, and then suddenly the dwarves went from being number one, or top 5, we'll say, to being one of the most difficult campaigns that you could pick because of how strong the greenskins were all of a sudden. And that became such a big learning curve, because it was like, it's fine. I can beat Grimgor with, Thorgrim. I can do that. Turn 12, Grimgor's turned up with his war, and he's confederated most of the orcs already. And I'm like, wait, what? Since when does this happen? Like, why?
Yeah, no. It's interesting you bring that up, because actually I was just completing a Warhammer campaign as Orcs. I went back and played it. I very stupidly thought that they might, for some reason, put the updates in the original as well. No idea. But seeing the Orcs then and seeing the Orcs now, even seeing the Dwarves then, like I can remember, they're pretty much the same in Warhammer if you go back and play it. The Dwarves are just manic to destroy.
Yeah.
But yeah, Warhammer 2, so it's really changed that much. They've just completely flipped it.
Yeah, it's had a lot of work on it. I think realistically the only faction that's never really changed much is Skaven, where they've just always been ridiculously powerful no matter what you do. But
Skaven, now that is a very good point. Because I feel like Skaven were hated at the beginning. Whenever I read about them, everyone was saying they were weak. And to go back to Legend of Total War, it seems like once he started playing with the current build, the was it Warp Cannon, Giselle, I can't remember the names of them all.
Yeah, using Warplock Giselles,
Yes.
using Rattling Gunners.
Mm-hmm.
Plague Claw Catapults is another one that's generally good. You don't use Storm Vermin or
That's it. Everyone was
Clan
complaining.
Rats. You just use the Skaven Slaves just to bog down enemies and then shoot the living hell out of them with your Rattling Gunners.
Mm-hmm.
And it was pretty much like that's how you would play a Skaven in the meta, essentially.
Yeah,
But I think Skaven always had the potential of being really, really good, but they just played so differently from the other factions that it took a lot of learning. It was suddenly you had a faction that's all about numbers, where it was just literally you want an army of slaves that you just throw at the enemy. They're gonna die. Who cares? You can replace them in a turn, and they cost nearly nothing. So you throw them at the enemy, and you sit your good units back, and you try and flank. And they played very differently from like the elves, who would have a bit of a front line, and then a load of archers, and you just decimate everything with your archers. Or you know with the dwarves, where you'd have your lines of gunners and flamethrowers and catapults, and
I have so been playing Dwarves
very
wrong.
Dwarves. I like Quarrelers and the Bugman Rangers over Thunderers. I find Thunderers a real pain.
So the Bugman Rangers actually came in well after I completed Dwarves. I completed Dwarves. I think it was the third faction I completed. Like when Warhammer came out, I just did each faction one after the other.
Yeah.
Back then I was just Longbeards, Slayers. I didn't really care for the siege equipment. Like it was just super fun, just throwing a bunch of hobbits at people, which really
Slayers
makes me
are
want to
like
get hobbits.
They're the big like no, apparently, Slayers.
Yeah, I heard that, and I kind of get it, because as you get to the, I can't remember if it's Troll, Giant, Demon. Yeah, I think that's the order, and definitely as you're getting to higher ones, like if you're playing the, what's it called? What's the mod? Steel Forge?
Oh, SFO.
Yeah, I think that's the one. It's actually got all the different ones in. Yeah, they don't feel like they're worth it. I mean, they don't feel like they're worth it in the original, but in the mod, even. Yes, yeah, that's the one.
It's literally a case of, well, they'll work very well against a specific type of enemy, so it's kind of become very limited in their capability. They're fun because they just run in and there's just dwarves in their pants and they're gonna jump in and headbutt the enemy and not care, which is just brilliant.
Yeah. They are basically what Norska should be, the entire army.
They're Norska if someone shrunk them in the wash.
And left a red shirt in with it.
Yeah.
No, that's excellent. Yeah, I really do need to start playing some more of the Warhammer 2, because it has changed so much with every update.
It has.
Needs to get back in.
I don't know how many more updates there will be now, with number 3 looming at some point.
I am very hopeful that their aim is to not exactly balance out this, but to test with Warhammer 2.
It wouldn't surprise me if they did. I kind of feel like that's what the Beastman DLC was. It was a test to see how Chaos should play in Warhammer 3, and how the Hordes are going to have to work and be adapted, because obviously Hordes were god-awful before the DLC of the Beastman. And I feel like, they've used it as a testing ground to go, okay, right, Beastman is a faction that people have banged on about for long enough. They want it. It's a good way of giving them what they want, and also testing, is this going to work in the new model? You know, are we going to have to rethink what we're doing? Are we going to have to overhaul it again? And I think it's quite a good way of them doing it.
I've got to say, I 100% agree. Beastman is like pretty much exactly how Chaos should work, but with I do feel like Chaos needs some kind of upkeep to keep them in check, because the Beastmen are... I've only done it on normal, but I did it on normal without I don't think I had a single... No, I did have losses. I had losses because I just started randomly throwing an army at this camp and was like, I'm just going to defeat these dwarves by attrition.
Yeah,
but
I'm going to keep bombarding you and you'll eventually lose.
It was all for free. I didn't care. I can just keep chucking them at them.
I think Chaos kind of needs... They almost need some sort of, almost temporary settlement system. Like, they'll go into an area, they'll conquer it, they'll raise a settlement that's half the size of a regular settlement, so you'd get a shrine to the whatever god that you want to follow, and then you can pick a building. And it'll give you maybe some economy, or it'll give you some units that you can recruit.
It with slaves. It's the thing that I never understood. Why you have a slave mechanic with the Dark Elves that works, but perhaps a little too well if you're gonna try and break the system with it, but it still it functions, it works. Why don't you just link that in to worship, you know? Let's send the slaves, let's rename them as sacrifices.
Yeah.
Jobs are good.
Yeah, and obviously you could have it that slaves are... the sacrifices are worked out in different ways. So Khorne, you would execute them. You know, Slaanesh, you would...
That's a bit nice, isn't it? Just slaughter them for Khorne.
That's Khorne. He doesn't care. He wants blood now.
True. Does not care how the blood is thrown.
Yeah. Whereas Slaanesh would be, no, I want you to take your time. I want the excess of it. You know, Tzeentch would be, let's do some interesting experiments with magic and see what happens. You know, did you get an extra arm? Nice. And then Nurgle will be go, ooh, plague.
I'm stuck on Tzeentch. I'm imagining like what is it, the bearer of Tzeentch, the weird beak-faced thing, just noish. Just thumbs up. Well, wing thumbs up.
Yeah.
I haven't actually asked, because I know you've been putting up some pictures over on Twitter of your Warhammer figures and doing some painting streams. What god do you bend the knee to?
Nurgle.
Good man.
I like Nurgle. Yes, he's... I love how ironic he is, that he's the most disgusting one, like the most grotesque that you can think of, yet all his units are happy. They're all happy, they're all laughing, they're all making stupid jokes with each other. And it's like, you would think they would be the most oppressive one possible, because it's all about just death and decay and everything. But no, they're really happy and they think they're great.
It's very interesting you bring that up, because actually he goes by Papa Nurgle on YouTube, was telling me about there's a book where they have a plague marine who of course lives on his own plague planet, and he keeps a Nurgling as a pet. And gives them all cute names and has his own little garden and does some garden. I was like, mate, no, you're taking the mic. He's like, nope, serious, go read it.
Yeah, yeah, it's a thing. It's like the beasts of Nurgle. Basically, they're only so dangerous because they're so excited to see someone and they want to play with them.
Yes, I heard
The
about
problem
that.
is they rip them apart and they spread Nurgle's gifts, and it's like, but they're just a giant decaying happy puppy. That's what they are.
That is the grimmest thing I've ever heard.
Is that what your puppy's gonna be for Halloween?
Yes, I'm gonna turn him into a beast of chaos, a beast of Nurgle.
Nice.
I don't think he'll approve, but he doesn't have a choice. It's fine.
Yeah, that was a bit of a side topic. That was good. I haven't talked about Warhammer in a while. Classic.
I have too much of an obsession with Warhammer.
There is no such thing.
I'm currently sat awaiting. Well, I was very freaked out. The new Kill Team box set. Oh, so glad I managed to get that.
Yeah, that looked very interesting. I know a lot of people got really upset with the Orc one that got released recently because I don't know, 2 units in it aren't what they expected, so they've all thrown the toys out the pram about it. It's just like, really?
What do you mean? Has there been a? Oh, was that the new Orc battle patrol?
Yes. Yeah, and I think it was because people were expecting either 2 more of the helicopter things or more shooters or something. I'm not entirely sure. I kind of switched off when someone went, they're whinging again, and I was like, that's it, I'm not listening.
Yeah, it is.
It is kind of amazing when you see some of the stuff from a community I love, but it's just like, mate,
It's like, just calm down.
yes, it's a business. It's Games Workshop. When have they ever been nice?
Yeah, when has any business ever been nice? That's not how they make money.
Though when we are not saying anything against Games Workshop, and if you ever wish to sponsor us, we would always say yes.
Yeah, because
we have sold
we
our
love you,
souls
really.
to the gods of chaos.
Papa Nurgle blesses us, it's fine.
Just don't let the Inquisition hear you.
Oh god, yeah. They'll never stop.
I love how a good Inquisition is the one that just kills you.
Yeah, yeah, just blows up the planet. That's it, gone. Don't you think that's a bit extreme? That sounds a bit heretical.
Planet 2.
Yeah.
Well, before we get a bit carried away, let's bring this back to meta gaming, going into Warhammer.
Yes.
Of course, you mentioned Warhammer 3 coming out. What is it you are hoping to see from Warhammer 3? Bit of rhyme.
I am hoping sieges have been improved.
Oh,
I reckon
God,
they
yes.
have been, because I think we've had, what, three titles now where sieges have been considerably better, where we've had 3 Kingdoms, we've had Thrones of Britannia, which, for all its flaws, sieges were just glorious.
But completely
Troy.
balked by the random placement of central victory conditions.
Yeah.
I think I find it interesting you say that, because of course they brought out the Bloodgate battle thing, and just looking at the layout of that, hey, that looks like the internals of a siege area.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. I'm really, really hoping. I reckon they would have taken criticism on board about the sieges. They're going to want Warhammer 3 to be as successful as possible. I mean, Warhammer 2 has had a lifespan of, what, 3 years through DLC, which is massive. Most games don't have that kind of longevity.
I was going to say,
They'll
it's not
want
even
that.
just a lifespan, it's a growing lifespan.
Yeah. It's just got bigger and bigger as time has gone on, and they'll want that with Warhammer 3, realistically. So I'm kind of hoping that sieges are fixed. I'm hoping, as a Nurgle fan, that the Nurgle army's done right, and that it's. I know it's difficult to do these things entirely lore friendly and to like representative of
Yeah.
the tabletop in some way. But I'm hoping it kind of matches the idea along with the other Chaos Gods. Although if I see anything more of Khorne, I think I'm going to headbutt a wall.
Yeah, I must admit, like, I always thought Khorne was cool. Like, I can remember seeing, because I'd learned about Khorne via 40k, Khan the Berserker.
Yeah.
And it looked awesome, the units sounded good, the rules sounded good. And then by about the end of the month, I was kind of sick of them already.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just seem to be the only one anyone talks about. And actually, I'd say Nurgle's
cool.
a pretty close second, to be honest, with that one.
Yeah, Nurgle's quite popular. I think Slaanesh is quite popular as well. I think the least popular is Tzeentch, which is
Yeah, I never
quite
understood
surprising
that.
because he's probably one of the more interesting ones, really.
I think
Where
it's
he
the
just
magic.
likes to. He's just a pain in the arse.
Yeah, well that's...
He just likes being a pain and going, "You thought that was okay? Guess what?"
I must admit, I do like the idea that just the ultimate defense against the Chaos Gods is Tzeentch. Because
Yeah,
whenever
where
something
he-
starts going good, he's just like, nope.
Yeah, no, that's not fair. We need to change this again. It's like, really, why can't you let us win? Because it's not fun. I want to change it, you know?
I wonder if they'll actually make gods a thing in this. As in, not like the gods, but more
Their
the
influence.
yeah, because they had the whole
Kind of.
Troy development of he's the
mythos.
god.
Well,
Even
and
before
in
Mythos.
in Mythos, you actually do get spells from like Zeus or Ares,
Ah, okay.
and in the battles. So if you have a blessing of Zeus and you're in the battle, you can see Zeus in the clouds. He's kind of like watching the battle, and yeah, you can use his thunderbolts and things. So I could see them possibly incorporating, you perform a rite to Nurgle,
Is it Liam Neeson?
I wish it was. It's not though.
It is like full shiny armor from the movie.
Yeah.
Oh, CA, you
That
missed
would,
out.
That would be, yeah, that would be brilliant. And having Sean Bean as Odysseus, they should have had that. Really.
Oh, but he'd die and you wouldn't be able to use him.
Yeah. Or at least he would be able to take a lot of arrows before dying. There is that.
They definitely had horns back then. That's doable. Let's make this happen. Someone needs to mod that in. I bet you money that gets modded in.
Yes, it must do. I hope it does. I'll play it.
Oh, excellent. Go on. So you're hoping for improved sieges. I think everyone is in agreement for that one.
Yeah.
Some kind of Nurgle satisfaction. I'll run with that. Getting some hopeful stuff coming in.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm hoping for, like, because I think the biggest hurdle with the Chaos Forces is if you're doing them as entirely undivided, you kind of can ignore the influence of each god. But obviously, if you're having an army that is devoted to Khorne or to Slaanesh, Nurgle, or Tzeentch, they're going to have to start taking on characteristics of that god, and they're going to have to start acting as an extension of the god's will. So Nurgle, for example, is going to have to be trying to spread Nurgle's rot. He's going to have to be trying to grow Nurgle's garden, and he's more of a slow-paced army. They're very slow and very tanky. You do get some units that are quick, but the majority of them move slower than the other other gods' armies would.
From what I gathered of Nurgle, the whole thing was that his plague moves quickly, but Nurgle moves slow.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not the unit that will kill you, it's what comes with the unit. So they'll hit you once, you die from Nurgle's rot. And it's kind of...
Is it bloat flies?
Yeah, you got bloat flies. They're the quick units.
Yeah, I was thinking, 'cause don't they just sort of go out and they literally just spread infection? They don't really fight or anything. And then just slowly the horde comes up, and whoever isn't infected, they just deal with.
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah. And then obviously you've got Khorne, who would be, well, I want to beat everyone up as fast as I can, you know, so it'd be almost like the Beastman, where you would just go rampaging. And then you'd have Slanesh, who would probably have more of an interest in taking slaves, and that kind of thing. You'd have Zinch, who would probably should have some kind of ritual system, kind of like the Eye of the Vortex thing.
I keep thinking,
because-
shouldn't Zinch just be having everyone fight each other?
Zinch should just be popping up, going, "Guess what? I'm a good guy now." And then next turn, nah.
Just shows up with the elves like, "You right, guys?"
Yeah. So, did you want to beat Khorne this time?
Oh yeah. They could like set up like portals and like direct armies. That would be cool. I didn't thought of that.
Yeah, it would be. I could see Zinch almost performing like Oxyotl, where he can teleport around different points on the map and going, "Oh well, this event's happening. You can influence it."
With
You know,
the
it's
undercover
predicted.
system of
Yeah,
Three Kingdoms.
Yeah. You can have it so that, you know, it'd be okay with this battle between the elves and Khorne. The elves are predicted to win. You know, are you going to intervene and change this? And that would be quite an interesting mechanic for Zinch. I don't know how much of this would get brought in. I kind of hope it would, but yeah.
All I
It
can
would be
think is
nice.
basically the button should just say, "Screw you, got mine."
Yeah.
Just every battle, "Screw you, got mine."
Yeah. Guess what? Nope. You thought you were going to win. Nope.
Fantastic. Go on. So some nice stuff coming up for Warhammer 3. Fingers crossed. I think everyone's hoping for on that one.
Yeah.
Just to finish us off, go on, what would you suggest for a player coming into a game like Total War, where they're going to find a lot of this stuff online, a lot of this meta gaming, if we remember back from the 30 odd minutes we've just been chatting? That's good stuff. Go on, what would you suggest to someone coming into a strategy game these days, picking up the ropes?
Play it on easy. Go in, play it on easy, play what you like the look of. You will lose, you will die, and it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that at all. It's part of learning it. You might eventually, you know, stumble onto actually, I want to look at the meta, and that's fine. There's also nothing wrong with that. But just enjoy a game at your own pace. Don't get pigeonholed into having to follow meta and things like that because, you know, X streamer is doing this, or, you know, there's this YouTube video that shows you can complete this so easily. You're like, no, just explore the game at your own pace and just enjoy the damn thing, because I feel like having fun in games now is almost forbidden. It's become that, you know, fun is the bad word almost, and it's a shame because it's completely different from when I was a kid. You know, when it was, you put a game on, you played the hell out of it and enjoyed it, and that was it. There was no real sort of bitter feeling about the game unless you just didn't enjoy the game, which was fine. You know, it might not be for everyone. Yeah, that's my biggest advice, I would say.
Well, it is good advice indeed. Starting off, just see what you can do, and yeah, definitely with a game like Total War, expect to lose a lot while you're learning. Oh.
Yeah.
Well, we'll always end the same way. What do we have good to look forward to? Kind of two ways now, on your Twitch and over on your channel.
So I'm doing a lot of Pathfinder at the moment because I'm learning. I don't know Pathfinder at all. So I've been looking at Kingmaker and Wrath of the Righteous. I'm hoping there will be some Warhammer 3 on the horizon. But other than that, it's going to be a lot of Humankind, Crusader Kings, Warhammer 2, possibly some Civ. I'm not sure if I want to brave Civ or not, because I'm just.
Has there been a new Civ recently?
No, you've got Civ 6. It's had several different civs added into it over time, where they
okay.
did the season pass kind of thing. So it's constantly being evolved. There's different game modes that have been added in. There's different like districts and things. It's constantly changing. It's another game that essentially every 6 months you kind of need to relearn how to play it.
Yeah, one of them.
Yeah, it's good, but it's also a pain.
Yeah, that is a very good topic for another time. Yeah. Excellent.
Yes.
Though. No, really interesting stuff. Thank you a ton for coming on, and of course, I'll have links in the description even. Till next
Brilliant.
time.
It's been really fun. Thank you.
Peace out.